NFC North. This is the toughest division for me in football. The Lions have the best roster. I'll pick them 1. The Vikings have the worst roster. I'll pick them 4. And yes, Chicago's got a tough road schedule. No question. But they literally went and got Pro Bowlers on their interior O-line. And again, if they can get a running back with their first pick, the coaching upgrade at Chicago from what they were to what they are is going to be like the quarterback upgrade from Will Levis to Cam Ward. Like, it's going to change outcomes. I have Chicago second. Here's Green Bay's tough for me because I've got to be totally honest about this. I really fell for Jordan Love. But last year against playoff teams, dude completed 60% of his throws with a passer rating at 81 and was 2-6. In the building at the end of the year, I watched the way they coached him. I think they lost some confidence in him. So I think Bears-Packers is down to the final week of the year to figure out who gets into the playoffs.
All right. So I really want to talk about the Vikings for this aspect of this clip because I find it interesting to put them 4 and to just like kind of give this blanket statement. They have the worst roster. Obviously a 14-win team last season, a win away from being the number 1 seed, home field advantage, bye, etc., etc. Now, I'm not going to linger too much on Sam Darnold, but I just want to say that I do believe that Sam Darnold was a big part. I'm not saying he was the part, but to try to downplay his contributions to that winning season would be a massive mistake from my viewpoint. And so you are losing that. Now, of course, you have J.J. McCarthy. Now, I do believe that J.J. McCarthy can be a great quarterback, but I also do believe that he's going to go through some rookie growing pains as every quarterback under the sun. Even Jayden Daniels, who absolutely balled out last season and was, historic, still had moments, still had really, really, really bad moments. I mean, even the game that he won where he then had really awesome highs against the Philadelphia Eagles, it doesn't matter that Jalen Hurts was injured because, he led them to an awesome comeback and a game-winning drive in the final seconds. But then he also in the fourth quarter had 2 horrendous interceptions that you could only say, he's a rookie. Like, that's the only answer. You could just be like, he's a rookie quarterback. What are you going to do? So even the quarterback who had an unbelievable year, who led, not the greatest team under the sun to a NFC championship game, cost himself, hurt himself. So you're going to see that with J.J. McCarthy. That's undeniable. To me, there's a few points that I really want to bring up. I'm trying to think of what order I want to do this in, but I guess I'll just start with Kevin O'Connell. I'm a massive Kevin O'Connell fan. I absolutely love the culture that he brought. I love his style of coaching. It's actually the exact type of coach that I personally really enjoyed to play for and would love to have continued to play for. I just think it's a great balance of holding people accountable, but really supportive, not over the top, not like so intense, but also not kind of like, hey, we're just best buds. Like, I just think he just brings such an awesome balance that I think fits Minnesota perfectly, especially considering, I've talked a lot about this. Like, I love the people of Minnesota, honestly. Like, they're definitely one of the nicest people that I've, that's like, it's weird how kind of nice and chill they are. So I'm always a fan of out there. But I've only spent a limited time there though. Your public transportation is really clean, which I still don't understand how that's possible. But anyway, and so I love Kevin O'Connell, but like how everybody was shook by Sam Darnold in those final 2 games, I think also being shook from Kevin O'Connell's coaching. Like, Kevin O'Connell does deserve some legitimate criticism for how those final 2 games, like, everyone's really just focusing on Sam Darnold. And the reality is, and I think John Middlecoff, and I even highlighted this, and I even highlighted John Middlecoff highlighting this when those games unfolded, in the aftermath of it, that like, Kevin O'Connell does deserve legitimate criticism, and it's okay. He's a younger coach. He's only been coaching for so many years. He's only coached in so many big games before. He needs to learn and grow and evolve and make mistakes just like players do, just like Andy Reid did, Bill Belichick, etc., etc. So it's like, I'm not being like, oh, Kevin O'Connell was exposed, he's not a good coach. It's just like, no, but like, it's okay to think the world of someone and still criticize them. Just the reality of how it works. And so I want to see, how does he evolve this team? How does he evolve this offense? How does he get them more ready to play? They did not feel ready to play against the Detroit Lions, and they did not feel ready to play against the Rams, regardless of just how some of the things were just not working for them. The team did not feel ready to play. They just didn't. Even though the Lions weren't good, even in the beginning of that game against the Vikings, you could still see like the fire at them. You could still see the energy, the intensity. And I know they were home, but there was still a level of intensity that was, very impressive. But on the flip side, when the Lions played the Commanders, they were not ready to play. I mean, they were kind of like shell-shocked. So, it's just sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. And sometimes it really is just on the players. Like it's always difficult to try to figure out when a team looks ready or not, whether it's the coaching or just the players. It's not the easiest thing to figure out, honestly. But I'm looking at the Vikings and I'm just like, I expected better effort that goes beyond just, Sam Darnold was sacked a lot, pressured a lot, etc., etc. It's more than that from my viewpoint. So I'm excited to see what Kevin O'Connell can do kind of moving forward. Then the other, big point is we've never seen Kevin O'Connell in this position to really bring along an incredibly young first year quarterback and develop him along the way. I understand Sam Darnold had his best year, but Sam Darnold had already kind of gone through it. He already grew and had time with now Shanahan, working with Palmer. Like you can't just give all the credit to Kevin O'Connell for Sam Darnold. He absolutely improved him and they worked awesome together, but it's not just that. There's a difference between having a 26, 27, 28-year-old, whatever his official age is, Sam Darnold, comparing that to a 21-year-old who just turned 22, J.J. McCarthy, who's never taken a snap in the NFL. It's just different. There's just a deeper level of learning and development that needs to take place. Just the sheer fact that even Kevin O'Connell can look at the film and the tape of what Sam Darnold did with the Jets, with the Panthers, with the 49ers, can't do that. And Kevin O'Connell's only going to be able to learn so much looking at, at this point, his college footage with Harbaugh. So I'm just curious to see how that relationship develops and the actual development of J.J. McCarthy, because we could see the actual development of Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels, and it was clear. And you can see the fingerprints of the coaching staff, and you can see how the coaching staff would pull back, push, give the quarterback a little bit more freedom, expand the playbook, etc., etc., etc. Trust them in very key spots. There was moments where you're like, Sean Payton, trust Bo Nix. Cliff Kingsbury, trust Jaden Daniels. You could see it. And you could not see the development with the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams. And there was many moments when you were kind of like, I don't know what the coaching staff's even trying to do with Caleb in this moment. And so I'm we got to have to wait and see how Kevin O'Connell does in this position, quite frankly. Being the head coach, having the quarterback, having also now the actual expectations of like, we just won 14 games. And the reality is, unfortunately, and I don't see it this way, but a lot of people do, the media, the pressure, etc. It's kind of like, if you're not like right where you were last season, then you're going backwards, and if you only win 12 games, 11 games, they'll say, yeah, that was good, but you won even more the year before. Why'd you win less? And that can get washed away if you actually like win a playoff game or something. But I think this Vikings team is going to be an incredibly fascinating team, and I think I think it has the potential. I don't want to say boom or bust, but I think it has the potential to either just not be as what a Minnesota Vikings fan would really want it to be, where you're just kind of like, we're good, but yeah, JJ is definitely young, and we're just not there yet. But I could also see the opposite, where it's just kind of like JJ, fits in seamlessly. And although there's still growing pains, there's still a collection of big time moments, big time wins. And I think the Vikings, unfortunately though, they do have the disadvantage because I do think the Bears will be good. The Packers and the Lions, I don't think there's any easy wins. Jay and Daniels got to play the Giants, the Dallas Cowboys, the Carolina Panthers, the Cleveland Browns. Like there was like easy wins for them. The Arizona Cardinals, which even had the extra intensity of, you know, Cliff Kingsbury, their offensive coordinator, getting redemption from being fired from Arizona. There was a lot of, you know, stuff to get after. And even when they played the Cincinnati Bengals a little bit earlier on in the season before they really were able to get their offense going. And we know the Bengals defense was absolutely awful. So there was a lot of opportunity to build momentum. And don't get me wrong, if the Vikings with JJ McCarthy, you know, go to Lambeau and beat Green Bay, like that's going to be momentum. But it's also at the same time, you also just can't expect, you know, JJ just to march in there and just be like, I got this, let's go. Or, you know, week 1 or week 2 going up against the Lions and, you know, on the road and just leading them to victory. It's just tougher wins. It just is. So you'd have to really kind of look at the schedule and when the schedule actually is legitimately unfolding, when and where, and see like where can the momentum be built and where can the confidence be built. Because the Broncos kind of had a similar thing where they kind of got to get some of their ugly losses out of the way against like kind of good teams, but not like the best teams necessarily. And they were able to really make their mistakes. So when it was time to play the Kansas City Chiefs or you know, the Bengals and when they did play the Bengals, at this point the Bengals were actually on a hot streak and were winning and were almost about to make the playoffs. Like, you know, timing kind of matters. And that actually then went a long way when you saw, you know, Bo Nix and Joe Burrow kind of having a little mini shootout a little bit. You're kind of like, all right. Even though they lost that game, you were like, I feel this now. You know, this is not the Bengals from week 2, week 3. Like, this is a real game right now, and Bo Nix is acting like he's keeping pace with Joe Burrow. Like, you saw it. And even in an ugly game against the Kansas City Chiefs, you were just like, yeah, man, like Bo Nix is holding his own that he would have not had the ability to do in week 1, week 2. You would have said that was an ugly game, that was a bad game. What the heck do we have here? So I think it'll be a similar thing with JJ, and that's why I think, again, you know, the order of the schedule will also matter. I said this also for who will win the division for the Commanders and the Eagles, especially when those two teams will play each other, depending on if it's going to be earlier on in the season or later on in the season. And I think for the Vikings to get some momentum, to let JJ make, like, JJ can't make some of these big mistakes, easy mistakes, which again, like, he's going to make. If it's week 1 and he has to play the Bears or the Lions or the Packers, like that does put the Vikings in a disadvantage, because now you're losing a divisional game right off the bat. It's also going to hit extra hard on JJ and the Vikings team. Nobody wants to lose to the Lions or the Bears, the Packers. So I'm curious to see what the NFL does. I'm curious to see if they give him like a little bit favorable of a schedule. That's what Colin had his tinfoil hat on last season and was kind of like, oh, the NFL wants Caleb to do well. They gave him an easy schedule, week 1 at home against the Tennessee Titans. And, you know, and that was a fair assessment, at least for that week 1 game. And considering how the Vikings season ended, like, you know how the NFL likes to have these kind of revenge redemption games, like, maybe if it was Sam Darnold, we probably could have maybe had more of a guarantee that it was going to be like Lions, Vikings, week 1 or something. I could see that. I don't know if they'll do that to JJ, but like, you know, the NFL is an entertainment company, so it's not random. Like, it is intentional. So it'll be interesting to see what the Vikings have in that regard. And unfortunately for the Vikings, it'll have a greater impact than you would want it to. But, you know, we'll have to see. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Minnesota Vikings? According to Colin, missing the playoffs and being bottom of the division. They have the worst roster. Again, according to Colin. I'm not saying this. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.